Barend, today I want to have a discussion with you about smaller versus big companies and the implementation of AI. So let's just drop an opinion here. Uh, Smaller companies have a bigger chance to have more impact on now the AI revolution, I would say, than bigger companies.
Probably true. Probably true.
Probably.
Yeah, because they're not, they're faster, more flexible. It's easier to make decisions in small companies, and historically, it's always small companies that are the winners of the future, right? So
Yep.
you're probably right, but I don't think it's a given.
No, why not?
Well, you also in history you also have cases where bigger companies embrace innovation really well, and in the end turn out to be even bigger winners. So I think it's really about how do you approach it when
Hmm.
you want to accomplish something new in those different realities, small companies, big companies, maybe
Don't you
even
think?
startups, right? Because
Yeah.
there's also this category right now of new companies that decide to start a company because of what's happening right now.
Yeah, well, let's talk about one side. And one side of, I mean, an opinion that many people have is bigger companies have more money. And with money, you can adopt new technology faster. You can develop your people faster. You have the luxury to say, hey, we let 20% of the people go that cannot embrace this new reality. And that's why they will win.
I think you should change the word can to could, right?
Yep.
They have a lot of money, so they could spend a lot of money on innovation. They could let 20% of the people go. It's actually they all have this option, but the other reality of large organizations is they're like oil tankers, right? They move really slowly. So yes, they can, but first the steering committee has to look at it, and then the security committee, and then there is an advisory team that goes to Boston Consultancy Group, and then maybe in 2026 they actually make the decision. And I
Yep.
think that's the biggest challenge right now. That large organizations are driven and steered by protocols, and they just tend to make decision makers slower, and therefore innovation slower. So I think that's
Yep.
something. If you work in a large organization, you see the opportunity of AI. You look at companies like Carve or other innovative companies. Yeah, you should be aware of that and act accordingly to that reality.
Yeah. So let's now look at the other side, the smaller companies. Let's say you're a company between, let's say, 5 and 50 people.
Yeah, I love that. I love that size, right? Where the
Yeah.
owner is still involved, and
Yep.
and if you have a great idea, you go to the lunch table, you share the idea, and maybe the next day a decision is made.
Exactly. There's not much legacy.
Exactly. And I think those smaller organizations, every few years there is an opportunity to grow rapidly as a small organization. There is an outside enablement or an outside force that allows you to grow faster than you would normally do. And
Yeah.
I think for smaller companies, it's all about making bold decisions right now
Yeah.
to dare to act. I I thought about this when we talked about this topic before, and I thought about this movie Moneyball. You know the
Hmm.
movie, right? You're a
Yep.
sports fanatic.
I am.
So in this movie, there is a baseball team that is likely not to win the competition. They are smaller. They have less budget, right? They have less options to act, but they boldly embrace a complete new system, um, looking at their own game, the game of baseball, in a different way, and that enabled them. Yeah, obviously, it's a U.S. movie to come to victory, and I think it's the same right now in the recruitment industry. There is an opportunity to look at your industry and at your company in a completely different way, and if you dare to take bold decisions and to act faster than the competition, well, then now is an opportunity to thrive.
Yep. I fully agree. And I think the trickle down effect of it will be, I think, more impactful than other innovations because imagine you work in this big corporate and your board is implementing some, let's say, AI in the process and making your life a little bit better. But your colleagues, your friends, maybe your family, they work in other companies where they give you this complete new reality. And it makes you, I'm really convinced it makes you a more happy person at work. And that can also lead to people willing to engage, maybe even change jobs to companies that are, more adapted to this new reality.
Oh, definitely. I think if you see this new reality, if you see a certain vision and you have the feeling my company's not taking me there, yeah, then people tend to move. I
Yeah.
think if you look at larger organizations, there are all these processes, structures, checks and balances, control mechanisms. And I think if you look in history, there are some examples where companies really went down because of it. If you look like Kodak, right? If you look at companies like Nokia, they were top of the game, and then innovation happened, but they were just too slow to act. So I think you're right. People could change jobs, but maybe this is also an opportunity, especially for middle management, to force the system a little bit and break through those innovation, because
Yeah.
in the end it will be taking the company to a bigger and better
Yeah.
place.
Well, let's take this to recruiting because we speak a lot to recruiting companies, let's say from the biggest agencies in the world that employ tens of thousands of people to agencies that literally employ 5 people. And can you maybe, with all that we just said, can you maybe give an example of how this new reality lives in one company and the other, since we talked to them both?
I think where the reality lives the same in all those companies is they all see this new vision, right? They all see that in 2 years from now it will change. I think the difference is that in smaller organizations, they tend to act tomorrow, and they
Yep.
say, let's just try, and if we fail we try again, but if we don't fail we have a head start. Bigger organizations, they're risk averse. They are more talking about, okay, but they're less interested in what can go right than that they're interested in what could go wrong, and
Yeah.
that drives a lot of decision making
Yeah.
processes.
Yeah. And I personally also think the in smaller teams and companies, you still have this entrepreneurial drive. And that is usually more like, let's create something out of nothing. Let's explore the unexplored.
Yeah.
Where in the bigger companies, it's more a manager job, I would say. And they only try to not fail. That's I think connected to
Yeah,
what you just said.
I agree with you. And this entrepreneurial spirit to think, okay, hey, we have these new instruments, we have these new building blocks, these new pieces of a puzzle, and how can we, change everything? Maybe enter this complete new reality. That's something you can only do in smaller teams.
Yeah. And this means, I think, if we look at this discussion, and I know we talk about this more often, in my opinion, this means that smaller companies that don't have a lot of legacy, that still have the ability to maybe embrace change and maybe do a complete 180 of a business model or working process, they could like really, really fast. They can gain an edge against bigger companies.
Yes, totally. I think you can learn from history in this regard. I think, be like Henry Ford. This guy started a motor company. He had these tools, and all their competitors had the same tools at hand, like these new types of machinery. But he said, okay, clear the whole factory, put the machines in a different order, build this complete new reality. And overnight, instead of taking 13 hours to build a car, he built it in 3 hours. And instead of spending $1,300, which was a huge amount of money back then, it was a few $100s for the same car. Same can happen in the recruitment industry. Look at your time to hire. Look at your cost of hire. Maybe you shouldn't look at, when you're a smaller organization, shouldn't look at increasing it or decreasing it by 20%. Maybe you can slash it in half. And I
Yeah.
think that's the mindset you should have if you are a challenger in the market right now. If you are with an organization between, let's say, what you say, like 5 to 50 recruiters, if you're in that size, then you have the opportunity to wake up Monday morning, get your team together and say, hey guys, this week we're going to try something completely new.
Yeah.
And those companies will, I don't know which company, but one of those companies will be the winner.
Yeah, and I think that and why the enablement of it is, in my opinion, now also different is, I think Henry Ford still needed a lot of money to get to this, to get those machines and to get the factory and
Oh
to get
yeah.
the people. But now with AI, this technology is at our disposal. Everyone has access to it, and it costs the same money for me as it will cost for a big corporate. So that
Oh
is, I
yeah.
think,
Yeah.
something that's so different.
Oh, you're so right. This is such a big difference, and it's there on demand, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to invest millions to try a new tool. You
No.
swipe your credit card, and for a
Yeah.
few $100, you learn more than you could learn in half a year of studying the internet just by
Yeah.
using those tools and trying it out.
Yeah. Well, exciting times ahead, especially for smaller teams, and I think it's a wake-up call for big companies to keep acting and bring this entrepreneurial mindset back into the board, because it will definitely impact those companies if they don't embrace change.
You don't want to be the next Nokia. Be
No.
Ford.
Okay, Baron, thanks.
Thanks.